So much effort put into closing the alligator's jaws on these Greeks. So, Xerxes is coming into Greece. Everywhere the native peoples and states surrendered. As Xerxes approached Thermopylae, his fleet encountered a violent storm which raged for 3 days and sank many ships. The Greek fleet, in the sheltered lee of Euboea, was not damaged. The enemy navy suffered further damages when Xerxes sent a large naval detachment around Euboea to bottle up the Greek fleet, for another storm blew the 200 Persian ships of this flotilla onto the rocks of the island. Not very good sailors, were they? Jesus, they lost a lot of ships. The main fleet, minus the 200, fought 3 battles with the Greeks of Artemisium, in which neither side could secure a decisive victory. While his fleet was trying to force a passage by sea, Xerxes also launched an attack by land at the defenders of the narrow pass of Thermopylae. For 2 days his Persian immortals died in droves before the stern Greek lines, but on the second night a local traitor revealed the existence of a narrow trail up the mountains behind the Greeks. The movement of the Persians' flanking force was detected by Leonidas, the Spartan king, in time for him to send most of his army away. He and his Spartans sacrificed themselves to delay the main Persian force. All were killed, and the wrathful Xerxes hung the decapitated body of Leonidas on a cross. The Greek navy had no resource but to withdraw to Salamis. In later days, a proud inscription was erected at Thermopylae. "Stranger, go tell the Lacedaemonians that here we lie obedient to their orders." That's from Herodotus, but I've also heard it translated, "Stranger passing by, go tell the Spartans that here, obedient to their laws, we lie." Now we're going to pause there because I think that was a very weak treatment of a very fantastic battle. So we'll come back to him later. Okay, now we're going to take from Greek History by Alice Zimmern, A-L-I-C-E, Zimmern, Z-I-M-M-E-R-N, and this was published, I believe, in 1905. This is actually a British school book for young British boys in London, 1906. Paternoster Row, London. A good luck picking up a copy of this little baby. This is fantastic. It's just for grade school kids, but much, much better reading than they allow in the colleges here nowadays. We are going to read about the Great Persian Invasion, starting on page 149. This is chapter 9. And this is kind of put in a storybook form, so we know some of the stuff about this. Now they decided they're going to meet for this big invasion. They're going to meet in Sardis, the old capital of Lydia, was chosen as the meeting place. And the troops mustered from very distant lands. Quote, "There might be seen swarthy Indians dressed in cotton coats and armed with arrows of reeds. Ethiopians with their bodies painted white and red, clad in lion and leopard skins, armed with stone-pointed arrows. Assyrians from Nineveh and Babylon in brazen helmets and linen cuirasses, armed with clubs, lances, and short swords, mingling with dwellers on the Caspian who wore no covering but goat skin. From north, south, east, and west they were come, in various garbs and armed with every weapon, from the rainless valleys of the Nile and the cold plains of the north. From every shore and every clime, the men of 46 nations, to help their mighty lord destroy one Greek city." It had taken 4 years to get this great army ready, and almost as long to dig the canal across the promontory of Mount Athos. Almost 4 years. Meantime, Egyptian and Phoenician engineers had been at work constructing 2 bridges across the Hellespont at the narrowest point of the strait. They had just completed their task and sent word to Xerxes that everything was ready for his crossing. "Dear Lord, come with your great army, the bridge is ready," when a great storm dashed the whole structure to pieces. The rage of Xerxes now knew no bounds. He ordered the unlucky engineers to be beheaded, and sent men to lash the water 200 times, saying as they did so, "Thou bitter water, our master lays this penalty upon thee, because thou hast wronged him who never did thee wrong. King Xerxes will cross thee, whether thou wilt or no." End quote. That's what they said as they lashed the water. Give the water 200 lashings. It's said in one of the other books that Xerxes threw a chain into the water and said, "You will now submit to me," submit you by throwing a chain in. Fresh engineers were now sent to rebuild the bridge, which was made much stronger than before. First, 2 rows of ships were arranged in a line across the strait and made fast by anchors at prow and stern. Over each of these lines, 6 long cables were stretched, 2 of flax and 4 of papyrus. Across these cables, planks were laid. A cable of anything but steel doesn't make sense nowadays. On this foundation, they now constructed a regular road made of wood and earth, with high palisades at each side to prevent the animals from being frightened by the sight of the water as they crossed over. Wow, what an undertaking! 46 nations, and all this business, a canal across Mount Athos to destroy one city. Xerxes had come in person to Sardis in the autumn of 481, and had sent heralds from there to all the cities of Greece except Athens and Sparta, with a demand for earth and water. Now, as I understood, it was Athens and Eretria, but they have a different story here, Athens and Sparta. Demand for earth and water. If you send earth and water, you submit. He also had sent word to all the coast towns in Thrace and Macedonia, bidding them prepare dinner for himself and his army on their passage through these countries. It would take months to collect what so vast a host would consume in a single meal. Of course, devastation was brought to the countryside when an army passed, especially an army this large. It was said they drank rivers dry, but that's just an anecdote to say how large the army was. In the spring, when the works were completed and all the preparations made, Xerxes set out with his wonderful army. Never was such a splendid procession seen before or since. First came the baggage carried by mules, then followed half the infantry of every nation. After an interval followed the select troops, all Persians, 1,000 horsemen and 1,000 spearmen, with weapons reversed and golden pomegranates gleaming at the butt. Behind them stepped 10 Median horses with splendid trappings. Then came the sacred chariot of Ormuzd, drawn by 8 snowy steeds, empty, for no mortal, not even the great king, might ride in the car of God. Next followed the chariot of Xerxes, attended by a guard of horsemen and spearmen, chosen from among the noblest Persians. After these came the Immortals, so called because their number was always kept up to 10,000, and there might never be more or less. Now, the reason the Greeks called them is the Immortals. They were the best troops, and as the Immortals came forward, anytime one of them died, there was another troop to replace him. So the Greeks said, "Oh, these guys are immortal." So there's that. Of these immortals, 9,000 carried spears ending in silver pomegranates, while the 1,000 who held the post of honor in the front and rear had pomegranates of gold. Another 1,000 horse completed the list of the noblest troops. All the rest of the army followed after another interval. Now they go ahead and cross the Bosphorus. There's a big ceremony. Xerxes had a throne of marble built up on a hill so he could watch his army go across. I don't know about that. Oh dear. It says 7 days and 7 nights were taken to cross all that army, and a native of those parts who watched the unending procession at last exclaims, somebody is watching and says, "O Zeus, why hast thou, in the likeness of a Persian, and under the name of Xerxes, brought all the nations of the earth to subdue the land of Greece? Surely thou couldst have done it without the aid of these." I don't know about that, and of course no citation for the source. The fleet and army had now to separate, but were to meet at Doriscus in Thrace. Here it was that it occurred to Xerxes to number his great army. This is how it was done. He collected 10,000 troops, drew a circle around